All right, so we are going to talk about absolute value inequalities. I think these are probably the most difficult to start with, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it makes a little bit of sense. So what we have to do is separate this inequality, okay? So anytime we see these absolute value bars, we have to separate it. So what I mean by that is that this becomes two different things. And I'm going to kind of write those over here. So it becomes two different things when it starts here. So the first thing it becomes is the same thing without the absolute value. So what I mean by that is we just write x is greater than 8. So we just rewrite exactly what it looks like. The second thing is you keep the x, but now we flip the inequality symbol. So we flip that. And then we change the sign of the 8. So instead of it being a positive 8, now it's a negative 8. So the first one stays. So this one stays. The second one, flip inequality and sign. Okay. So again, we would just flip that from a greater than to a less than, and then make the 8 a negative. And then you would graph those. So what's that going to look like? Well, if x is greater than 8, we would do an open circle at 8, and we would draw it facing out. That takes care of this one, but we still have this one to do. So we just kind of treat it as two separate things. So at negative 8, we'd put an open circle, and now it's going to the left. So the absolute value of that is just either greater than 8 or less than or equal to negative 8. Okay. All right, so there's that first one. Looking at the second one, it's really similar. So again, we're splitting it into two different things. The first one stays exactly the same. The second one, the y stays the same, but our sign flips. So we flip that to the other direction, and our number changes to a negative. And then we just graph them. So this one's going to look a little different because we're going to have a closed circle, and it's going to come this way. For the second one, we're going to have a closed circle, and it's going this way. So if you notice, they're going in the same direction. So what we do there is we draw all the same, just one line between them. So we just draw one line saying that your inequality, the answer to that is between those 2 points. Okay? And then we just rinse and repeat. So if you could pause and try letter C for me. So pause and see what you could do with letter C for me right now. Hopefully you broke it into two things. The first one stays the same. The second one, everything changes. And then close circle going this way, close circle going this way. So this is one that doesn't connect. Okay. What's a little different about D is that the variable isn't first. And we talked about that in the last topic, that the variable has to come first. So we need to rewrite this where we flip these first. So it's really the absolute value of P is less than 4. And then we're going to take that and just do the two broken up things. So P is less than 4, P flip this, and make this a negative. And then you just graph them. Open, open, this one's going this way, this one's going this way, so they meet. when they meet, you don't have to draw the arrows, just draw a straight line between them. Okay, so again, that only difference is just that first step where we need to flip them to get the variable first. Okay, so again, let's pause the video and try letter E for me. So take a moment and try letter E. So hopefully with that, you switched it and you made it W is greater than or equal to 6, W is less than or equal to -6 when you separated them. And this is going to be one of those ones that faces out from each other. And there's your answer. All right, so looking at the homework, the first half is exactly what we just did. Okay. Just all numbers, all the things. The second half is when you need to write the absolute value inequality. So what you're going to do is just look at the positive side. So you just look at the positive side for these and write your inequality based off of that. So remember, our inequality always starts with x, the number, in this case 8. It's facing this direction because that's the way the arrow's going. And because it's a closed circle, it's got a line underneath. The only thing we're missing, because it has this whole other half, is just the inequality bar. So it's the same thing. You just start with the positive side, write it out, and then add the inequality bars. So looking at number 2. So we're going to start at an X and a 10. It's going this direction. There's no arrow, but you know it's going that direction. So my inequality is facing that direction. It's a closed circle, so there's a line underneath. Again, because it has 2 parts, we just add those absolute value bars. Okay? And that's how you do the rest of those. I'm going to kind of come back down at the end of letter E, and I want you to add a letter F. Sorry, I should have done this before I moved over to the homework. We're going to add a letter F. On some of the worksheets, you'll see the absolute value of -x, and then this symbol. So what we're going to do with that is still separate it. Okay, so we're going to separate it into -x is less than or equal to 6, and we still keep the other side -x, flip the inequality, flip that 6 to a negative, and now kind of think back to when we had an equal sign there. How did we get rid of the negative? Or think about what's really implied here is a 1 that we don't write. So to get rid of that -1, we have to divide. And so this is kind of a preview for the next lesson. And maybe you remember this from when you did inequalities in 7th grade. When you divide by a negative, the inequality sign flips. So kind of backtracking here. These -1s cancel. We're left with x. 6 divided by -1 is -6. But now, because we divided by a negative, this inequality sign flips the other direction. Same thing here. Negative divided by negative is a positive x. Negative divided by negative is a positive 6. This inequality sign, because we divided by a negative, flips. So then you would just graph those, and they would face into each other. This is only if you choose the error analysis. So if you don't want to do that, don't choose the error analysis. That's the worksheet you're going to see it on. The practice you won't. So you'll only see that on the error analysis. So if you want to challenge, do that one. If you're like, that was too confusing, don't worry about that one. Okay, so that's lesson 2.